What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today I want to do another day of megabonk reverse engineering. I've been playing this game. I'm addicted, super addicted. Hold on, megabonk. Steam run. Look at this fucking sick game. You play these guys, you run around in some, how do you say this? Some like 3D world, bad guys spawn and you kill them. Like this guy, wow, he's dead. And then you buy like upgrades and stuff, and over time you get like way stronger and more guys show up, etc, 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 right? So it's pretty fun. But I have questions. Lots of questions. So I was playing yesterday and wrote some of them down. And today is about just answering some of them. Right, so like, you know, look, like something we can look at here, even just this thing. You charge this thing up and it gives you abilities, right? Sometimes the fucking circle, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's not blue. And then there's like this like little rune inside that shows up, and these runes look different from each other. Does that matter? I don't know. I have questions about like scaling, but anyways, yesterday, we figured out a few things. This is a Unity game, shipped with the Unity backend that like takes all of your C# scripts, compiles them to C++, which is kind of funny. I think they compile from C# compiler output back to C++, then run that through a C++ compiler or something. But there's still a bunch of like symbols related to C# code or whatever. So you can run this thing through something called like, it's like IL to CPP dumper or something. And that will export a bunch of symbols that will help your like reverse engineering tools kind of understand the code base, right? So like in here, we now have like a bunch of headers defining structures that this thing is using, as well as like a bunch of input functions, right? So if we look for something like encounter UI choose offer, right? When a menu shows up to display things that you might want to upgrade from, we now have code that we like going backwards from the assembly to like a potential version of the C code that would have generated this assembly. You have like useful words like, oh look, we have this thing is like an encounter UI object, and you can like look at the struct fields that are in that thing, and you have like accesses to member variables and stuff like that, which is pretty hype. We also have this thing we ran IL to CPP dumper. It exported also kind of like a dummy version of the C# program that maybe generated this thing, right? So there's kind of like a bunch of extra metadata that's associated with this thing, and you have like type information basically in here, right? You have stubs for all of the public APIs, but not like their actual implementations, because their implementations are in the shared object, compiled to assembly. So yesterday we got to the point where we found out how luck affects item selection. That was kind of like the big thing we discovered yesterday. I think it was in this like choose offer thing. I think no, it would have been on like construction of this thing. Somewhere they called this thing, it was like get random stat upgrade maybe? Yeah, it would have been like here somewhere. Get random stat offers. This is item pickups. Get random stats was maybe the one? Maybe. We found somewhere. Here, I think get random stats was called by get random stat upgrades. Get random stat offers, yeah. And in here we found somewhere they... Oh, right. In this one, it was stat modifications. So they kind of have like a base modification amount that they multiply by some sort of like scaling factor based off of the rarity of the thing it's selected or something like that. Right. So we have like a, proof that we can find something in the code base. And so what I want to do today is just answer more questions. I didn't really sort these, but maybe I should. Does poison trigger on hit effects is the most important thing for me to answer in terms of like the build I wanted to do. I wanted to do a build where I drop a bunch of poison on guys and kind of stack the duration of the poison, and then hopefully if the poison ticks a lot over time, if I throw a lot of poison at someone, like if it ticks many times per second, like if all of the poisons do not like turn into one big poison application, but kind of like all tick individually, and they all trigger like on hit effects from items, then it like could be a good strategy to like try to get a bunch of poison, make it last for a really long time but do really low damage, and try to get something that does like good on hit effects, right? But that only works if poison triggers those things, and I don't know if that's true. So that's the first thing I want to look at. So I guess we maybe look at the weapon Poison Flask. Seems reasonable. And I assume that, like, this is an E weapon. So how do weapons work? Someone must store somewhere what weapons I have. I saw something called aura attacks in there, which is interesting. Weapon data also seems interesting, right? I have weapon data with all of this thing. So as I upgrade my weapon, you know, my weapon has an individual damage and an individual crit chance. So it seems likely that weapon data is an interesting piece here. Character data owns a weapon data. Okay. And then character data, I assume, is part of my button character is crazy. I don't know what that means. Data manager, player inventory maybe makes more sense. So like somewhere my player has an inventory. That makes sense. And in that inventory, I guess, is where we are. So what? It was like my player inventory, then what was it? I already forgot. It was like player inventory, then like weapon data or something, right? It was like something like that. Weapon inventory or character data. I don't know which one it was. Was it both? Weapon inventory. No, this was not it. This is kind of like more metadata about, oh, maybe it was like weapon, well, dictionary of weapons could have been it, but it seemed more like, yeah, I mean, that's like one option for sure. Maybe weapon inventory? Maybe. But then there's also, we saw something in like character data as well. Right, so I think we saw player inventory, weapon inventory. But we also see character data in here, which had class character. This thing had weapons in here, right? Or did I make that up? Weapon data, weapon. Oh, but you know what? This is kind of weird because this kind of implies that you only have one weapon per character, unless this thing has many weapons. Yeah, so maybe this is kind of more like the initial weapon that you spawn with, but not like the list of weapons that I have normally, right? So where would that be? Weapon data is a base of some classes, so they might be using those. I don't think that this is related to data manager. This seems a lot more like kind of global game information than it seems like specific weapons. And also maybe this weapon data is kind of like how do I say this? Like non-modifiable data, right? Maybe this is like how the weapon starts, and then you like upgrade it with some other metadata somewhere else. That's like a very likely possibility. Let's go back to player inventory. Right, weapon inventory sounds a little bit more promising, just in terms of like how I would stash this stuff. Right, because in here I have a dictionary of weapons, right? Dict of E weapon to weapon base. And then weapon base must have things like upgrade and stuff. Use is cooldown, get cooldown, apply stat modifier. Sounds interesting. But we're trying to answer the question of how does it apply it? How does like it apply poison, right? So I think that we maybe assume that poison is somehow in the weapons dictionary. That would be my guess right now, right? So we probably have like a dictionary. We have the poison tag here, right? E-weapon, I think, is like this list of weapons that we could possibly have. And so probably when we unlock the poison thing, they call this like weapon added action, which probably links to add weapon, which probably inserts it into the weapon dictionary, right? If we were just to make some guesses based off what we're seeing. Which means that like we're probably hoping to see that like somebody inherits from weapon base. Right? That we're not seeing that, but maybe my search is bad. So can we just kind of like start spamming this and just see? Because surely somebody inherits from this thing. No? So this is at line 65,000-ish. This is all being used. Oh, wait. Weapon passives holds a weapon base, so maybe it's by composition, not by inheritance. And then we see some people inheriting from weapon passive. Can we look more? Can we look at projectile base? Also seems interesting. So the poison flask is like a projectile that you throw at people. So that's probably interesting here. I bet you that like we probably have like poison flask, projectile poison flask inherits from projectile base, and so we know that projectile poison flask holds a weapon base which has information about its like stats and stuff. Okay, so we probably want to see how this hit enemy function works on this thing, probably, right? This like projectile poison flask has hit enemy. I think that's probably a nice place to start. Projectile poison flask. Let's see. Hit enemy. Did I close the decompiler view? So this calls explode flask. Cool. And then a bunch of shit happens. Cool. So I guess we just start looking. Start trying to figure this stuff out. This thing looks like colliders. This thing looks like enemies. I actually don't understand what this is right now. This type is confusing. Enemies, enemy 0. Or enemies, enemy object. So this is probably a hash map. Can we view the type in here? What is this thing called? This thing. I want to look at this thing. The field in here that he's holding. Right. Okay, so this is each enemy has a bunch of stuff in him, right? A bunch of, you know, interesting things about them. So it looks like this. Hold on, looking again. This could be an array of enemies. Enemies, enemy O. That's confusing. Can we look at the header again? Enemies, enemy O. Here we go. So like it looks like they're kind of calling this in usages here as like kind of one guy, right? Just generally. He says, hey, I'm an enemy of this class for some like runtime introspection. And then also here's the information about my guy, which is all of this stuff. So it looks like this is probably a specific enemy, right? Probably if we're trying to explode the flask, this is going to be like an iterator over all of the enemies it hit, would be my guess. Well, we'll just call this enemy for now. This looks like an effect. Okay. And what does an effect player owe? So an effect player fields has confusing. Oh, effect player, not player as in me, the player playing the game, but like the thing that actually like plays the sound for the effect or something, right? We're seeing like sound effects and stuff, particle system, right? This is like after the thing hits, here is like how we are going to like run this effect. So this is like effect play state, I guess we'll call it in my brain. This looks like some sort of transform. This is probably like effect transform. If I had to guess, based off the fact that he's taking the effect play state in and calling get transform on it, right? So there's probably something like that. Okay. So here he's saying if this is a valid play state, it seems to me like this effect player is not like anything interesting about like actual application of damage or anything like that, right? It seems like it's like purely like a visual thing, which kind of makes me think that I can just ignore all of this. However, that's the only thing that happens, so I guess I'm wrong. Okay. Oh, okay, so he has things like explosion size from this. So this is my poison flask, right? And he's calling, you know, what is the... This looks like... Okay, uvar1 044. What does this mean? Uvar1 is an undefined 8. What does this mean? Is this an 8-byte variable that is undefined probably on the stack? I assume that's what this means. So can we like define a type for this thing? Because like we can already tell here that the first two fields are like XY, right? So we know that like if fields.x here is a like uint or whatever, right? We know that these are floats here. We can see them assigning them here. So it'd be interesting to be able to like start writing that down, right? So can we like edit the type here? Can we like add a new type? We don't know what this is yet, is the thing. Read type auto create structure. Failed to fill out structure. Okay, that's great. But like, can you just make me one that I can fill out? That'd be kind of cool. I guess can we just make one? We'll call it unknown flask var. Like, I want to create a thing here. I guess we go over here and make one. New structure. Okay. So we want to add something here. Add a field here. This is a 4-byte float. We know this is an 8-byte object. We need another emote. Hype is getting boring. Yeah, sorry. But thank you for the tier 1. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Okay. Oh, is it just vec2? If this is 8 bytes and those 8 bytes are 2 floats, this is just vec2, no? Float vec2, right? So we have, how do we kind of like merge these guys together? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I want to like edit this length field. Float. Oh, here we go. Float. Okay, float. Hello. Maybe it's mad because this thing needs to change the offset. How the fuck do I... Oh, F2? No, I don't want that. What the fuck? Delete? Okay, here I can write float here, right? Now if I hit add after, like this is so stupid. Oh, here we go. If it's like depends on where I've clicked. Okay, so can I edit the name here? This is X. This is Y. Yeah. Okay. So now I can be like, retype this thing as a float vec2. Let's go! And then down here, when we use that thing now, wherever the fuck we were looking at it, we should be seeing that thing used. Where did it go? We lost it? Somewhere in here we should be seeing float vec2. Hello? Am I stupid? Alright, where were we? It was here. uvar1. Wait, it just didn't do it. Right? uvar1, it just didn't fucking change? Here, yeah. What the fuck? uvar1, retype, float vec2. What the fuck? Your windows are bouncy? Hell yeah. Float vec2. This. Okay. Am I stupid? Refresh. Save. Float vec2. How many times do you think I can do this in a row without it being insane? Float vec. Yeah, why can't I retype this? Am I crazy? Does it not fit? Is it complaining somewhere? I feel like I had it right. Length 8, alignment 1, pack disabled. I don't understand why this isn't working. I don't understand. Ghidra retype variable not applying. Uh, maybe I have to like reopen this thing? Maybe? No? That's annoying. But okay, whatever. There's gotta be some way. Whoa, what just happened? I hit commit local names and that did something. It just moved it. Properties? This is more about like everything, right? Alias blocking. This question is I was learning transformer architecture and knowing that someone doesn't have math or STEM background. I find myself following steps and implementing most of the time. I feel like I've lost the plot a long time ago. How do you feel about learning making things that are completely new and different and you have no context domain knowledge other than how you know how to program? I'm a year or two into programming and don't want to spend my time not learning. I mean my answer to this is just to not do that. Like following steps is like maybe like an okay way to get like an overview of something. But generally, I'm of the opinion that you should understand what you're doing, which I know is like kind of a harder thing to do when you have less context overall. But like if you have questions, then like ask them and answer them, you know? like there's some level that you're willing to accept that you like don't understand, right? Like I don't know how you turn sand into silicon, or how like transformer or like how transistors like really work. I did some of that in university, but like I don't remember it. But like there's some level where you kind of feel like you're like okay with saying I don't need to know stuff below this. But like if you're like I'm confused, then you got to answer some questions somewhere. I've never used Guitar for C sharp. There's D in spot. Yeah, this isn't C sharp. It's like C sharp compiled to C++, and then you lose the C sharp output later. So you have to use like something more low level. For this. Alright. I guess you just can't do what I want to do for some fucking reason. I just don't really understand. Like, if I like retype local 78 to like uint, like that works. So it must be that like my type doesn't match undefined 8 probably. Maybe. Like it could be something like that. So undefined 8, maybe. How do we like look at that? Can we like clone this? New? Type def on undefined 8, maybe. No. It feels like I'm so close. Right? We just have to make something that like matches an undefined 8. So if I like close this and look at my float vec2, is it like editable after? Right, we have this thing. Can I, oh, I can edit this. Can I not edit undefined 8? What is the difference between that and float vec2? They're like different icons here. Can you not use Unity's vector 2 type? Yeah, I guess maybe there was something in there, right? Vector 2. Unity. I mean, we don't really know that that's what it is, right? It's like compiled to something on the stack. That just like has 2 float fields, right? Everything here is like talking about pack. If you just like hover these things. So maybe we need to do that. Because the undefined 8 maybe is packed in some way. Pack. Align default. Sure, can we try that? Like, it wouldn't shock me if there's some... still no, huh? I wish it would tell me why. You know? That would be cool. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It would just be nice if I could do that. It would just be nice. And also, maybe I didn't save this structure. Who fucking knows? If packing is enabled, the alignment is computed based on the pack setting and the alignment of each component. Sure. Oh, duh. Confusing. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we just live with it. Do the fields fit? I don't see how it wouldn't, right? This is an 8-byte vector, undefined quad word, length 8. So I don't know how it, like, could not be this. But I must just not understand something. So can we just call this, like, at the very least, explosion? Oopsies. Explosion size. And then this is, what is local 58? This is a 16-byte thing on the stack. I think? Yeah, undefined 1, 16 bytes. So this is, at the very least, Jesus Christ. I guess we'll see. We will see. This is weapon base. Maybe this is just the weapon pointer or something. Does it have more than X and Y field? I mean, it's only 8 bytes, so I don't see how it could. This is checking for some null check, probably. So who cares? This is saying if the effect transform is not null, then we are starting with this as also explosion size. This is explosion size XY. Right? I'm sorry. What in the fuck is going on here? They are casting this thing to a long, then shifting it right by hex 20. Then casting it back to a float? This must be some sort of, like, crazy float manipulation. So float 32 data format. Like, what the fuck? 20 does not really give us anything super interesting. Or hex 20. What is 0x20 is that 16? Am I stupid? No. It's 32. Isn't that useless? Maybe this is getting the sign? This might be the sign? Isn't that just shifting by the size of the type? Yeah, it really does feel like that, right? Wait a second. Also, you can't cast... This is not a legal cast, no? Explosion size XY. Did we type this wrong? This is an 8-byte thing. Undefined 8. Right, so we think that this is another... Yeah, we think this is we think is our 2 float vector, right? Because they assign it like this. I guess maybe this is a pointer to that thing? Am I misunderstanding? No, it can't be. So here they're using maybe the first 4 bytes of this thing as a float, right? This is their way of saying like explosion size X, maybe. Is 4_4 a CPP thing? I assume that this is the Ghidra decompilation way of saying take the first 4, like offset 0 length 4, offset 4 length 4. I assume that's what this is saying, right? Because that would make sense in terms of like how this is being used. But yeah, I guess it's like not really super clear. So this is taking the explosion size X. This you would think is doing nothing. You would think that this is 0. Then he's taking local 58. So this is like Z explosion size Z, then unknown is like what we want to call this, right? So the first 4 bytes of this is explosion size Z, and FR11 is unclear so far. We haven't figured that one out yet. Here. Attack size multiplier. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So he says, I've got my, uvar 13, which is Unity Engine vector 3.0. So this is the like modified explosion size. So this thing, his Y I'm sorry, what the fuck? Is Y up in Unity? Which way is up? It's shifting XY by 20, not shifting X. Oh, yeah, you're right? So this is taking the body. That's crazy. Yeah, good fucking eye on that. Yeah. So you guys are saying that like you have 8 8 bytes of stuff, right? This is X, this is Y over here, and then they're taking this, casting this to along, shifting Y down into the lower bits, and then truncating that into a float. That's crazy. Okay. Explosion size Y. Good eye. Okay, so this is easy. So they modify the size, and then they set the local scale on the transform with the modified size. Easy. They set the play state to this thing. They check the play state, and they hit play on that thing. They apply the effect transform, or they get the effect transform, and then they apply. Whoa. Get position this. So here they're saying like this might be something else at this point because they've kind of like already used this here, this modified explosion size, right? So like here they are getting the effect transform, which they just set here. Oh, this is explosion size first, then it is the explosion position, right? Modified explosion size or retrieved position. So here he's getting the position back from that transform after changing the size. He's setting some stuff here, right? So we can probably assume that this is X, Y, Z here, right? So I assume here, he's reusing the memory at explosion size z then unknown. So kind of at this point, he is, I would assume that this is like the x and y float positions here. Right? This thing is returns float xyz. So here we're taking xy here. And then he's taking z from this extra out xmm0 thing. Which was assigned where? It's just undefined memory? Unless this is actually like some like register side effect that is just being marked shittily in the decompilation view. Right, this could be the result of some instruction. I don't know what like extra out means here. Right, like cuz sometimes you have like these like C flags, if I remember correctly, where you do some math and then the math has like side effects that happen in some other register on the CPU and you like query those things. Like what does it mean? So blah 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 blah. Not flags and hell everyone. It's SIMD instructions, but like here they're like clearly like assigning this thing that has never been assigned to here, right? Right, so it must be something that's not like a variable on the stack, like it's saying here. You show the ASM for that line? With tab, maybe? I don't know how to like do that. Like, does this have some way to do my names? Oh wait, maybe we're just there already. Like if I click here, yeah, it does look like it kind of moves around with me. So he's calling move APS. Is it? Whoa. Okay, so he's getting position. And then he's looking at. Oh my god, everything's so hard to fucking look at. Okay. Oops. Oopsies. XMM word. Yeah, so it looks like all three of these lines are this one function. Oh. So is it like they don't actually care about the rest of that stuff or something? I need to look at what this does. Move APS. What is that instruction? Move aligned packed single precision floating point values. Moves 4, 8, or 16 single precision floating point values from the source operand to the destination operand. So he's taking wait, why is there only one parameter in here? What am I looking at? Is this just like fucking like off the screen? Is there like a line limit size or something? Shouldn't this be moving one thing into another thing? Or maybe it just goes into some default location. Uh, yeah, it does have like a dest variable, right? Um, Turning into a game dev? No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just trying to play my game and not be confused. Uh, yeah, am I crazy? It feels like this thing is supposed to have two operands. It's writing whatever's in XMM0. Oh, sure. Sure. So it's kind of like get position returned some like 4-byte vector or like 4 float vector or something, but like some of it's garbage. Maybe, right? That would make sense. Wait, yes, where's the second operand? I guess XMM. I don't know. I don't remember like the floating point registers. XMM registers. Like they have individual names, right? Yeah. Uh yeah, so I would assume that it's something like that. I would assume that it's like we call this function, he puts out the return in XMM0, and he's because it's like just how he wanted to pack that shit. And then this is kind of like, hey, we're like putting we need to like copy that stuff out, but like some of it's fucking garbo. Maybe. Yeah, so these lines are in the wrong order, right? It's like he returned a 4 float vector, and so he has to fucking assign that whole 4 float vector with this operation, but in reality we only care about the first 2 bytes of these things, right? So this is like explosion size z or um explosion position xy, right? Presumably. See if it feels kind of right. Feels kind of right. Okay. So then here, what the fuck is concat 44? Why is it black? Move SS. Is this just their way of saying that he's packing these two variables into the same variable? It must be, right? Must be. Local 40 is a U long. Yeah, so he's like packing this as local 40 offset 4 with the retrieved Z? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, whatever. What so this is like we don't know what local 40 is yet? Where did local 40 come from? Local 40. Oh. Oh, I see. It's just whatever the fuck was in there, which is nothing. This is garbage shit. Right, so this is garbage like retrieved pause Z then trash. It feels like. Okay. So then we attack size multiplier or explosion radius. Can we like does it have to reuse the variables? At what point it is easier to just read the assembly than the key to see? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the assembly. This I can like understand what I'm looking at in the Z. I don't really understand what I'm looking at very much in the assembly view. This is the weapon attack size multiplier. Okay. So all of this stuff so far is just talking about like who the fuck do we hit, right? That's like what all of this is trying to figure out like where the fuck the thing is and how big it is. So this is position XY at this point. So AU var 4 is AU var 4. That's an array of U var 4s, yeah. Annoying. For the variable reuse, it entirely depends on the compiler and what it decided to do. Okay, I'm lying. It also depends on what the compiler decided to optimize around. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of saying like, I understand that these are the same fucking register, right? Sure. The compiler went and he said like, hey, I'm gonna use like, R0. Sorry, that's ARM, like RAX for this thing, right? But like, it seems like I should be able to say in here, like, hey, at this line, just fucking like pretend that it's a new variable, right? Just label it something else. You know what I mean? Like that would be nicer. Like, can we split out a new variable? Oh, perfect. Okay, so we should stop naming things as this like thing or other thing, right? So like here, I want to do like split as new variable, and this is like retrieved position. And then can I... Oh... Undo? I don't like what it did there. Fuck. Oh, where you fucked something up. Do I have to like select all of the uses of it at once? Or something? Right, like... I don't understand... Oh, sorry, these are different variables. Wait, so maybe that's fine. So like explosion size or explosion position. So here is where I want to split. Where'd it go? Was it not... What the fuck? Here I can click split out variable. Here I can't? Because it's doing a parameter fucking modification? That's cool. Because this thing, it doesn't know the type. Because it's like merged two like completely independent things into like a fucking array. Cool. That's super cool. It seems like that would be really nice. Like what I feel like I should be able to do is like fucking like write like a barrier, right? I want like a fucking barrier that says every time you fucking reference this variable below this point, call it something else, right? That's what I would want. But wait, megabonk is open source? No, 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 no. This is decompilation. This is awful. Okay, so in some cases we can do it, but in some cases we can't. Okay, fine. Fine. Can you view these files in an editor instead of this rubbish? Yeah, hold on. Just give me 1 sec. 1 second. Let me just like nvim real quick. Megabonk gameassembly.so. Is this what you want? Like this is the best. Like well, I mean, it's not the best. It's I didn't really look into. I typed in Ghidra into Google because it's like a word I've heard before, right? But like maybe there's a better tool for this, and I just don't know it. uvar9 is uvar6. Uvar6 is get enemies in radius safe. So this has gotta be a pointer? Right? This has gotta be a pointer. And then this is a null check, just kind of like phrased really funny. No, this is the number. This has got to be the number of enemies, I think. Get enemies in radius safe. I don't want to fucking reverse engineer this right now. Let's say this is, we'll call it probably. We'll write probably to indicate that we're not confident. But that's probably the enemies in range. Rename. Probably num enemies hit. Do note that splitting variables is non-trivial because you can have loops in your data flow graph. Oh yeah, that's fair. But it seems like it, in my mind, there is a trivial implementation of this thing, right? It's within, like, you have like in this the assembly, you have a register or something, right? Then you have like a map of lines to names or ranges to names, right? You just say, if it's in this fucking line of like the C source compilation D view, the decompilation view, call it this. Otherwise, call it that. Right? Like, it's not like, I don't think it's like that crazy for me to say, like, I just want I want to like limit in this range for it to be called something else. You know what I mean? But yeah, sure. And then this is also still probably num enemies hit. Still. Okay. This is in if statement, then a while. So this is probably like a for loop, right? They're probably like, this is like some iteration variable. I bet you uvar10 is like which enemy, right? So here we're indexing this. Yeah, so this is like enemy index here. And this is some like type, this is some like, I'm not sure yet. Because it really depends on what is in enemy manager type info, I guess. The problem is it might have to insert synthetic instructions to copy back into the old variable name, and that'd be fairly unintuitive, IMO. Oh, yeah, sure. I guess like you could have something where you hover over it and it says all the aliases or something. But like sure. Like it would be, maybe it would be nice if I could like force things into unions as well, right? That's like another way you could do this. Looks like this is some sort of pointer to something that they're null checking here. Right? So there's like enemy manager type info. So something related to enemy manager. Right? At offset 1C is like could be like maybe the vtable or something. No, because you would be wanting to call it if that was the case. So unclear. Oopsies. What the fuck just happened? Okay, I want to look for ivar8 just a little bit. Oh, so this is like literally they're only using this for null check. So it's like we'll just call this like some null checked thing or something and not think about it. Okay, so they go over each enemy from this thing, right? Why is this a boolean? This is a boolean because it says like enemy valid or something, right? Probably. Right, this is probably like enemy exists like valid or something, right? Because he's retrieving from this array into the enemy pointer, and then this is checking for if it's there. This is also also enemy. So then they also null check this guy, because why the fuck not? They look at my weapon stuff. And this is the, at this point, we want to call this enemy center position. Okay. Wait, what the fuck just happened? Where was I? It's so confusing that you just like everything just like moves on the screen. But here's where we were. Then this is the fucking Z position now. Or enemy Z. Pause. Sick. Okay. Okay. So then all of this goes through. He gets another transform from PA var2, which is my player, right? We should assume that this PA var2 is going to be like a pointer to my player, right? We see this here. Does it know that? Yes, it does. So this is my player. So he's getting the explosion radius and then my position. Where the fuck were we? I should fucking remember the line numbers. That's got to be something that we build into our brains, is like look at the line numbers. Fuck, I'm lost. I remember this Ivar 8. Enemy, also enemy, I remember this. My player here. So we're at like 183. This is IL2 CPU decompiled C++ code. For some reason, I thought this was netspice decompiled C#. Dope. Oh, no worries. Yeah, this is, I guess it's technically not IL2 CPP decompiled C++. It's like directly decompiled assembly from the shared object with tags and types generated from IL2 CPP dumper. Right? So like there's a bunch of like names that are still kind of around that like reference the original C# that it can like inject into Ghidra and say like, hey, when you see this offset from this variable, like you know that this is corresponding to this field in the original C#. But whatever. It's weird that Ghidra doesn't show the control flow graph by default. I think we have that if we want it. I've seen a control flow graph somewhere. Maybe it was under here. Just in my mind, the last time I saw the control flow graph, it was like with assembly. I'm like, I don't want to read the assembly. Yes, you do, but it's shit. Okay, like real shit. Perfect. If this is a shit program, maybe I just don't know. Like, I could switch probably. Or at least look into some off stream. I just picked the word I heard before. Okay. So if my player is null, or my player transform is null, get fucked. Okay. Then we get the effect transform. So this is the effect position here. Stop moving things. I mean, I get it that the text changes, so you have to, but it's just like, ow, my brain. Okay, so we get the effect position, and this is now no longer explosion size. This is here. No splitting here. Or enemy center X. What a confusing way to like exist. I guess maybe just the answer is that I don't rename things all the time. That might be the answer. Explosion size or explosive position or enemy Z pause. So this is like Z, like enemy, this is, I can't, fuck. Split. Enemy effect Z offs. is what this is. Okay. Only Rena, what you need is the answer. Yeah. Because I was trying to like really like understand the full flow, but I guess it's just too hard. Okay, so really we're getting down to here, right? So this, I don't know what this. It would be very interesting to me to like understand what the fuck this is talking about. So, because like if we have this thing and it's 0, then we undo something probably, and then like freak the fuck out. No. This might be like a type tag of which weapon we're on. Not really sure. Maybe you can look at xrefs on this thing. Yeah, maybe that's not a bad idea. I mean, we know that it's related to like C# generated metadata about weapon utility, right? Like we know it's something like that. Oh wait, maybe do we have this? This is field at OX1C, which is like none of these. That's also confusing. Uh, can we look at like, is this a, oh, this is, oh, wait, this is a pointer to 2. So he looks at this thing, he jumps to 2, whatever the fuck that is, and am I confused? I don't see this like 1C thing in here. How many pointers is this packed? Packed, yeah. So it should be in order. And so we should be seeing like I assume it's 8-byte pointer, then 8-byte pointer, then a few 4s. Right? So he's probably, so it's like 8 hex 10 hex 12 hex 14. C is 12, right? So it's probably the C Tor thread, or no. Let me think again. No more ad. What I missed? Thank you for the prime. Much appreciated. Okay, so this thing is at field 0x1c. That is how many bytes in English. 16 plus 12 is 38. 16 plus 12 is 28. 28 bytes into this thing, right? So we have 2 8s is 16. 0, 6, 8, 16, 20, 24, 28. So this is the C Tor thread, maybe. Right? If you look at this, that's the field that's that far in. So he's dereferencing the C Tor thread size T. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Doesn't really make a ton of sense. I guess maybe this function is like dispatched to another thread or something, and so maybe you need to check that. Yeah, it does look like, oh, is this spawning the thread if it doesn't exist? Could be, right? Could be. So he's looking for if weapon utility has its constructor thread spawned. If it is not spawned, he does some reassignments, and then probably like this function is taking that thing in and passing it as parameters to the new thread, probably, right? We're seeing at the very least like pthread self in here. I don't know if we're seeing pthread spawning, but the fact that we're seeing pthread stuff at all is like an indication of maybe, right? Maybe thread local things as well. Oh yeah, could be. Although then I don't know why he would be checking the like cause the thread position or whatever the fuck. Yeah, unsure. Unsure, but sure, something like that, something thread related. Not related to damage, which was the original thing that we were trying to think of. We got to keep that in our head. We're looking for how is poison damage applied. That's all we're looking for here. So he's thrown this projectile. He now is looking at like how far we are from the enemy that we hit. How far away from the enemy that we hit. That's what direction is. Then this is damage container, right? He is getting the damage container from the weapon utility. I don't really know what that means. Get damage container here, right? So he's like, given this weapon and this projectile and the enemy direction. Yeah, what is like a damage container? What does it mean? Is it not defined anywhere? Wow, that's confusing. Yeah, it looks like, unless we're cycling through. Oh, it's used a lot of times. Hold on. It also might be from one of these, like, Unity things. Class damage container? Oh, yeah, my bad. I was thinking struct because I was in the wrong fucking language in my brain. Sure. So he's... I don't know why direction is involved. I guess for, like, knockback, probably. Right, so all that direction calculation was just to say, like, which way are we going to push that boy? This is, like, how much damage is attached to that thing. With, you know, whether or not it crit and stuff. So I wonder if this thing probably does the actual application of the damage here, right? Right, like, unless this thing comes back, like, only partially initialized. It would make sense to me that this thing is returning a damage container that has, like, everything set, right? You at least damage seems to be set. What about, like, crit? You know what I mean? Get weapon damage. Get stat components. Get final. Yeah, so like if field's crit came from weapon DC. Wait. Oh, I see. So here he's getting the weapon damage container, I assume. Yeah, it looks like this is a weapon damage container. So this is getting like this is telling me probably whether or not this weapon is allowed to crit. Probably. Oh yeah, oh yeah, sorry. Whether or not this thing crits at all? Confusing. Let's see if this thing has like p-thread stuff in there. It does. Yeah. Okay, so we have a little bit more evidence that field 0x1c is like another like thread local thing for this type info or something like that. Okay, so if crit is not equal to var, so I guess this is like, did this thing crit? PA var3 is, but this is like a static variable, right? Like a static field. So weapon, this is like, maybe this is, for each weapon, we store type info associated with our, like, this might be like a constant for the weapon that we're looking at. This is confusing to me because this is like not even related to me right now, right? This is not related to any particular weapon. This is like a static fucking field. Right? Which is confusing. There's no like this passed in. You know what I mean? So like every weapon utility, it must be like it. Unless this is some sort of like global variable passing bullshit. Yeah, what the fuck? Because these are static variables. So did we see us assigning weapon DC somewhere else? Like before we call this function? Global var for current weapon, it feels like. Yeah, I mean, not. It seems like maybe confusing, but yeah, maybe. Um, but when we call this weapon utility get damage container, this is with the weapon passed in, right? So we're missing something where this weapon base is like an important part of this thing. So if weapon base is not null, and this thing, my weapon base, we assign this to my weapon data. Okay. And this thing is valid. And PAVAR3 is static field for this weapon DC. So this is unrelated to the weapon that we're querying for. Maybe all weapons have a common weapon DC, like a weapon damage container that's kind of like the base of everyone. You know what I mean? So like I kind of feel like here I want to call this like common weapon DC or something. Cuz it really doesn't feel like yeah, so maybe this could be like at the start of your function if you type like, var DC is, something, right? And then you like take in like DC and you like merge in weapon box or something, right? You could be seeing something like this where you have kind of like stored in static memory, like your initial container. You know what I mean? Could be. That would make sense. So like maybe like DC initializer would call this. Okay. What are we trying to figure out? We're trying to figure out how this guy applies poison. That's really what we're trying to figure out. So does damage container hold like effects, damage effects, right? We're looking probably for something like this where I assume E damage effect has poison on it. Yeah. Right. So we're looking for in here damage effect, not found. So maybe this thing maybe calculates like the initial damage based off this thing, but then the effect is applied later. Something like knockback is calculated here at the very least. What is FR here? FR10 and FR9 is what we're looking for, right? Oh, it's just right here. It's literally player stats get stat. So presumably this is knockback amount. And then this is here. Probably it's PSVAR3 is a map of E stats to floats. So this is saying on PSVAR3, which is the weapon stats, could I get presumably X18 here is the enum value for knockback, I would assume here, right? If we look for like E stat here, we're gonna look at like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's 16 plus 8? It's 24. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can just go down. We can say 48 down, knockback multiplier, right? Okay, yeah, so like cool. It's sick that we're understanding this a little bit quicker. I think we're getting through it faster. Right, so here he's looking at 12, so that is 16 plus 2 is 18, so times 2 is 36 down. Right, so now he's looking at crit chance, for example, is what's going on here. Right, so get crit damage multiplier on he's using, this is from the weapon. Yeah, this is like weapon crit chance here. Then he's looking at that plus FVAR9, which is player crit. Fuck! Oh no, I want to go back! Oh, good. This is like player crit chance here, right? Easy. Okay. So these things are added together, makes sense. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So as far as I can tell, poison is not applied here. Unless, is poison a, is poison a stat here? Yes, it is, because technically, poison is something that you can get from both using the poison flask as the weapon, but also, I guess, as the, like, you can get items that increase your poison, so that those get applied as, like, your own stats for your character, I guess? Hand wavy? Cool. So I guess what we should maybe do, like, in here, is he not, like, ripping over my stat effects and, like, applying them all if possible? Like, how is it possible that this, like, get damage box thing doesn't touch the poison flag? Right? Unless I'm misunderstanding. Class damage container. Right, we have damage effects in here. Right, I would assume that damage effect has... Whoa, 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 whoa. Can it only have one? Maybe this is just whichever one wins. But that's interesting. This is like critical information, if true. If you can only apply one of these things per hit, that's fucked up. Right? Like, if my poison doesn't apply because I bonked, or because I mega crit, that's insane. That, like, fucks up a ton of builds, I think. So that's going to be really interesting to look at. In fact, I think that I almost just want to find this thing and see where it gets set. It's also possible that we might be able to, like, create, like, multiple damage containers, but it really depends on how, like, effects are applied to this thing, right? Because it feels like so far all of this is like, get me, like, the base damage container for my weapon, right? This is all in weapon utility, so it's very, very, very possible that, like, extra effects get applied on top, right? Because again, we're looking for, like, damage effect in here, and we don't see it at all, right? So I think that if we're trying to figure out how poison gets applied, I think maybe looking for usages of this variable might make more sense. Is that something we can find here? Damage effect? Or do we have to... Maybe we want, like, damage container here? Right, like, we're probably looking for usages of this damage effect guy here. Can we do that from this view? Find usage. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum. All right, give him some time. Can we filter by assignments? Okay. Okay, so we do see a bunch of just like fucking people setting that thing, so that's a good sign. So like this is going to be an item implementation, item cursed doll. Okay. So item giant fork, item Joe's dagger. Get player damage. Oh, that's not. That one's equals 0. So wait, which one's poison? Poison is 0, 1, 2, 3, 3. We're looking for equals 3, right? It's like here. Damage player external. So here we're probably saying, okay, we're looking at like get player damage. This might be on us. This is a player health field, so it kind of feels like that. Is there other ones where they equal 3? Here. This is on debuff poison. Enemy debuffs. Debuff poison. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Let's keep that one in mind. This is enemy debuffs. Implementations, debuff, poison. My tick is a potential damage source for poison here. And I don't see any other obvious assignments of poison, right? So I would assume that like debuff poison has to get applied somehow, right? I would assume, right? So I would assume that this is maybe like E debuff. Okay, yeah, there is an E debuff. What was it? E debuff here, right? So poison is a thing that we can. God damn it, dude! Every day my phone just falls out of my fucking pocket onto the floor. So this looks like E debuff is like a bit flag here, right? So we can apply all of these things at once. So we're looking for maybe where this debuff would get applied to a character, right? So I would assume that this gets sent in somewhere. Debuffs to add. This is probably an enemy structure or something, right? Class enemy, yeah. So is there like a like debuff queue function that we can look for maybe that might get called? Has debuff, add debuff, right? So we're probably looking for calls to this from somewhere, would be my guess. Oopsies, this is the wrong fucking view. No, do not rename that to add debuff. This is the wrong word. Add debuff. Where's the fucking dragger? Here we go. Can we find references here? Okay, proc-on-hit effects. For items. Okay, these are item. I'm looking for something that comes from like my attack. Explode flask seems interesting here. So this is an unconditional call. Where? Here. Add debuff here. So poison flask, explode flask, which is the function we were actually just in, right? That's interesting. So on explode flask, I guess what this is saying is that the flask explosion does not necessarily immediately apply poison to the hit, right? He adds debuff to this guy. With an enemy. What are the fields to this thing? the flag, so 1 here is poison, right? debuff. Enum debuff. Yeah, so poison is 1. So when he explodes this thing, as he's iterating over all the enemies, he goes, yo, this guy's poisoned now. And we do note here that this debuff does not have any information about, like, my on-hit effects right now, right? But we would maybe assume that if we were to apply these debuffs later, that we would maybe look at the player for, like, all of my on-hit effects or something like that, right? So this isn't like a smoking gun that they don't trigger yet. It doesn't. That's not it. Okay, so this is great, right? Now we just have this, like, debuff thing. We know we have, like, was it poison? Debuff poison, right? So we're probably assuming here that, like, when we call add debuff, we must have to match in here the, like, debuff enum to which debuff type it is, right? So I'm going to go in this here, and I'm going to look for somewhere where it looks like we're indexing based off of the debuff type. I think that's the thing that's going to make sense, right? So here he's throwing this thing into debuffs to add, we would assume, right? So it might not be applying the debuff right now. It might, like, service that later, right? Now the thread things make sense. We want to know if we're looking at, like, a threaded attack weapon. Yeah, it could be. Or I was assuming that those threaded things were for, like, playback and stuff. But yeah, it could be the other way, right? So here they're setting, all of this is kind of saying, like, we have some debuffs that we're going to add. Can we throw that shit into the container? Add debuff container, right? Do we see anything that's, like, referencing my player in here? Not really. Just, like, some damage containers. But those, those could be coming from some function calls that reference us. But I don't think I see anything too critical here. We're like, hey, does debuffs to add already, I assume that's what, like, local 68 here is, right? Local 68 equals e debuff. Oh, sure. So does this container hold e debuff? And try to get that thing into this container. This is probably, like, a get or put type shit, maybe, right? He's throwing a third parameter in here. Maybe local 68 is actually the dictionary. That would probably make more sense, right? Local 68 is just pointer. Yeah, so he's saying, oh, it's confusing. E debuff, because this is e debuff here is the debuff type. So I don't know why you would be passing a pointer to that in with the value as well to dictionary get item. Can we look up, like, C# dictionary get item? It's an out parameter, yeah, maybe. That would make sense, because I guess the value has to go somewhere, because this has no assignment. Yeah, good point. Good point. So this is the debuff container. If it exists already, right? Then this is in local 48. They just reassign this thing, sure. So it's both of these. We don't know what this is. Damage container here. PA stack 60 is the damage container. Oh, we do hook in the initial damage container of this thing. I missed that earlier. So when we call add debuff, we throw in this damage container, which is getting the damage container of the weapon. Okay, so if the damage container contains, if this damage container contains things like crit, which it did, right? We saw in here, we saw like, you know, the damage container that we get out of this thing, you know, has like, according to the crit chance, maybe, yeah. So according to the crit chance, where does this go? Weapon crit chance, player crit chance. They like multiplied these together, right? We added them. Get crit damage multiplier based off of the probability of this thing, right? So that's interesting, right? We see things like crits going in there. It would be interesting to see if something like my on-hit effects is relevant, right? Like, we could be back to like this damage effect thing. Proc coefficient. That's interesting. Like how often this thing might be hit is very interesting. If that's what that means. So I'm getting like a fuzzy picture here that we get some damage container. It's kind of like it's like on poison flask explode, was it? Yeah, on poison flask explosion, get damage container relative to our like between using our weapon, you know, weapon position, enemy position, player stats, right? Then we like attach this damage container to the poison application, right? And then we like Q add a debuff to enemy, right? Right now it is unclear how much this propagates. Right? Unclear who knows what happens next, right? We could maybe assume that these, you know, the thing that we apply ticks every once in a while. But is unclear at this point to me where something like if say that the original damage has like a bonk applied to it, right? We hit him with the hammer and it goes bonk. I would assume that doesn't mean that every single poison tick also bonks later. But who knows? So I think what I want to do is I want to find some on-hit effect that has like a percentage chance to apply and figure out where that gets hooked up here, right? Because presumably like somewhere in this initial hit, we might like perform what's like one of like an execute knife megabonk. There's like something like this. Joe's dagger. I just want like I more just want like the metadata about it. I don't fucking want like a fucking game rant article. Here we go, right? So 1% chance to instantly execute an enemy. Each execute permanently increases your damage by 1%. Right? So this is kind of what like the build I was thinking of is maybe built off of, right? It might be interesting to like start your run by like stacking duration and like attack speed, but really, really low damage and get one of these things early. Get like a fucking mega big wave and hope that like your poison increases the damage. And then like later buy like a second weapon that just like fucking cranks out damage based off of this like heavy damage increase type shit, right? So what I want to know is, I guess, where does the damage from this get applied? And then we can kind of use that somewhere, right? So can we look at like Joe's dagger? Item Joe's dagger. Oh. I mean, already this is interesting, right? Already you can see that there's like a limit on how often he can apply, which is a little concerning. Yeah, so he gets he might go through on. It looks like a proc-on-hit effect would probably be it, right? Let's look at like items Joe's dagger. Item Joe's dagger. Those aren't templates, those are generics. I think that like semantically, you're probably correct, but I don't know if like for the person who was initially talking about templates, like I don't know if it matters to them. You know what I mean? Okay, so proc on hit effect is not where the on hit is the on hit is affected. Could be on pre-attack. Could be. But yeah, I get what you mean. So yeah, we have like apply execute based off of this damage container. So he's modifying some damage container on pre-attack. And it doesn't look like this is based off of the if execution chance is less than this. Okay. PSVAR is random. My random type info static field's random. So here he's looking at my vtable, getting a double out of this thing, and just checking if it's less than the execution chance, right? That's what all of this is doing. Those are completely different things. I mean, like, yes and no, right? Generics, like, semantically, you could argue they're very similar, right? Like, if you're thinking of, I have a templated type vector, and he owns a bunch of he holds a bunch of integers, like, the implementation of if it's generic versus template is like, as a programmer thinking at a high level, you might not have to think about it. But yeah, if you're saying that like C# generics are like these runtime types that are completely fucking different than like C++ template instantiations, which are like compile time different code gen, it's like, yeah, very different. But I could see an argument for why somebody would say, it's like, whatever. Like, depending on like the level. Like, I think that the original statement that this guy made, I was only like half paying attention to that. But I think it was like, wow, that's a crazy template syntax. And it's like, I guess like in that world is like kind of the same. But also I don't really care. I'm like really tempted to ban people if you come in and say first time chat. Oh, never mind. Actually, sorry. That's my bad. I'm actually like almost really overreacted here. You said hey hello, which is very nice of you. I thought it said say hello, and I was like, if you come in here and you fucking just tell me what to do as a first time chat, go fuck yourself. But you were actually just being nice, so that's on me. That's my bad. Hi, hello. This is what I get for reading out of the fucking corner of my eye. Sorry. Can you say hello to me, please? No. Sorry, that was really fucked up of me, actually. I'm afraid to first message now. I think maybe now is the best time. That's probably maybe the best time, right? Because now I'm hyper aware. Okay, so if we execute, this guy is basically overwriting the damage source to himself and applying execute. Hand wavy, fuck you. Yeah. So also, this is kind of interesting, right? We can kind of tell from this that luck does not affect execution at all, right? Luck affects maybe, we've seen luck affect like the random application of item selection, but it doesn't seem like stacking luck will make you execute enemies more. I try and stream 5 seconds and some guy's already in crucified, and he didn't even do anything wrong. He was just being nice. He just said hello. Okay, so the question now becomes is who calls pre-attack, right? I would assume that this is going through some like vtable shit, right? So if we like look for references to this thing, I assume that we're only going to see indirection entries in here, right? We haven't really figured out how the like shared object export gets like kind of linked back. I wonder if we can find something that's like, we would want to find like the type info for item Joe's dagger, right? Like, can we look for, can you search for like data labels here? For decompiled text, right? I want to like search for like this thing, but for another guy, right? We have like this name here. You know what I mean? Will you be here tomorrow? Probably. Probably. Holy shit. Was my stream was just like fucking flickering like crazy there. Symbol tree? Yeah, maybe. My random type info. Yeah, no. Can we search? I mean, we can just start looking for like search for this. No. Search in here, maybe? Symbol tree is the middle. Oh, sorry. I don't think it would be in here. Oh, it would be. Whoa, that's confusing. That's actually quite surprising to me. Okay, so can we look for, we want to look for item Joe's dagger type info, probably? Right? And then maybe someone references this thing, and that's how they find the... Right? Like, we do see it here in code, right? In create item. Right, so in here, they're initializing some list of things, probably. Right? So this is, I would assume, here, this is initializing the type info for each item type. Right? I would assume that like if we look at e item or whatever, we're gonna see like item Zawarudo at the very bottom of the list. So they're probably in order, right? E item type. Enum e item. Right, if we go to the last one. Oh, confusing. Wrench. Oh, so maybe the order here doesn't matter actually. Yeah, they're just throwing pointers in. Are each of these the same? This is interesting. These are all the exact same function, right? So maybe this is like initializing some common field on all of them. Or maybe it's like walking some sort of like pre-initialized thing, so it doesn't really matter. The more interesting thing to look at here is if we're looking for item Joe's dagger. This is 428, 526, 526 minus 428. Oopsies. 526 minus 428 over 2. 49-ish. Which is in hex 31. So we're looking for 31. I might have been off by one. This is it, Joe's dagger here, right? So we can tell here this function, if we see this guy, he's probably in here going to assign the vtable to something. At the very least, he's applying class here, and I think in class there's a vtable as one of the parameters. Yeah, I see system enum vtable down there somewhere. So we probably would assume that whatever this thing is doing, he is doing some sort of like indirection, right? So this is all in create item, right? So someone's going to call create item with e item, and that's where this thing is going to get procced from, right? So add item here. So this is on this is on item inventory, add item. So that means we're going to iterate items somewhere, right? So if we look at like item inventory, class item inventory, right? We will assume that items is the list of items that we have, right? And so somewhere we're calling add item. He is attaching Joe's dagger to this list. And so then pre-attack was where the interesting thing happened to Joe's dagger, right? Where the execute was applied. And so the question is pre-attack called from the poison path, right? So first, maybe we want to look for where pre-attack is called on flask hit versus poison is poison debuff doing the same thing, right? I think that's what we want to know. So here we're looking for item inventory pre-attack. That's where this is going to get interesting, right? First we should, I guess, confirm as well that item inventory pre-attack walks all the items and does what we expect, which is here we are expecting him to walk over all of his items. Right, so here is his dictionary of item tag to item base class, right? Here he's getting all values of this thing and he's enumerating them, right? Going on to the next element of this over and over again. So local 38 here is presumably the item base. Maybe this is a key value of item 2 item base. Eventually he is Jesus Christ doing this. So local 28 is what? Local 28 is 0 here. It must be assigned somewhere, no? Am I crazy? Local 28. Am I stupid? What the fuck? This has to be assigned somewhere, no? No? I checked the Windows thing and it's also ILTCV. Yeah, I guess I should have said I did check that as well before stream the other day, but appreciate it. Doesn't this just insta break? Because it's assigned to 0 here and then never assigned anywhere below. And then here he's like if equals then break. It must be a bug. Or something. Like I don't. You can middle click on it and highlight everything. Oh, that's kind of hype. Right? Like this just must never. I mean, but also it's impossible for that to be the case because that would mean that pre-attacks are never called. That's where looking at assembly might be. Yeah, the decomp is just maybe just fucking wrong. That sucks. I just assumed that it was like at least correct. Hello? Move this to local 28. I assume, I don't know which way this is going, but we can make a quick guess that it's going left to right, right? Is this AT&T syntax or Intel syntax? I don't know which one's which. But like they're taking this pointer and putting it in this thing, right? Which means like this is surely not 0, right? This is here. And is never fucking reassigned. So they're just fucking mental? Am I crazy? Why? This is just wrong, right? I mean, this is right, but then like, where is this? Unless I'm missing something completely fucking wrong. Like, here they're saying that this is local 28. Great. Move this into local 28, then test if this is. Oh! I don't remember what this test thing is. This might be like some wacky shit. But sure, let's assume that that's wrong for now. Yeah, can we look up the x64 test instruction? Sure. So he's checking the 0 flag, right? So jump if 0 to this. Right, of course. And he's using that to check local 28 if 0, but then just forgot to write down the part where local 28 is set from this, right? That's just what happened here, right? It's gotta be that he just like somehow lost this line, right? It's gotta be something like that. Okay. So this is like really the more interesting part, right? We're looking for, he's going to this plus offset 1b8 and calling that as a function or something, right? I'm assuming is what is fucking going on here. He's calling this rax plus 1b8, where rax is what? Rax, this class. Right, so he's looking at the offset from item modifier base or whatever the fuck this is thing. This is item inventory. But no, sorry, this whoa, confusing. Can I look at the class variable here? I want to go look at this guy. Then at some offset from that thing, which is 1b8. So like somewhere in here. So 1b8 minus c8-ish, right? We're going to keep that in our head. 1b8 minus c8. 1b8. Not looking like this is big enough, I think. 1b8 minus c8. F0, yeah, it's not big enough. So maybe they like dynamically inject functions into this thing, right? It kind of feels like that. Is like they have class specific info hidden in this thing, but we should assume that this is just the pre-attack function, right? Right, if we look at pre-attack on, what was it? Item Joe's dagger comes from item base. We're looking for like pre-attack. This doesn't really help, huh? Oh, sorry, no, this is, wait, am I fucking stupid? class item base. Pre-attack here is like a public abstract. So we don't really get to see like the vtable things, but like I wonder if you could like tie it back somehow. Normie here, what is that calculator? Oh, it's Kcalc. It's just the calculator built into my ID to my desktop. I feel like there's a way to tie it back. I just don't know what it is. If we look at what was it? It's like item Joe's dagger type info. Can we tie it back by looking at some like offset of this thing? Like we're looking for offset from class of something or other. Uh what the fuck is this? What is this, a pointer? And if so, how do I go to where it points to? What the fuck am I looking at? Show me the bytes, baby. Copy, like, I would assume that like these dat things are supposed to reference something, but like why does it say not found in program memory? Oh, these are fucking runtime loaded, maybe? So this is pointing to something that is like loaded when the elf loads, would be my guess. Can we go to like those table entries or something? Oh no, how confusing. How confusing. ASLR or something? I would assume kind of more like. Oh, wait, there's an expansion thing on the left. Maybe that's what I was looking for. No expansion thing on the left here. But I want to know if like we're looking at like 2000 ADA, right? That's like around where we're looking for. I want to know if like stuff gets like loaded from the elf into that section kind of like manually. Or maybe like it could also be that like uh it could also be that Unity decides to where to put stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, hard to tell. Definitely hard to tell. It might be imports from other libs. Yeah, I guess that's true, huh? If Ghidra knows how to import this stuff, because he does have like load addresses, kind of like it starts at hex 100,000, so it could be. Where was I again? It was like somebody was using dat 2000. It was in the pre-attack thing. It was item inventory pre-attack. And we were trying to see if we could make a guess at who this was. So we were trying to figure out the item Joe's dagger type info. And we were trying to see if we could tie back this thing. But then this is pointing to some like fucking unknown spot. You can also add all the other libs to your project, and it will be able to resolve everything. Um. Mm-mm. Yeah, it would be like in here somewhere, right? So we'd go to like megabonk and here. And I would assume it's just this stuff, right? I would assume. Sure, he's missing some stuff. But none of these are importing Unity as well, which is confusing. Can we like manually add a file? I guess we could drag and drop was how we got the first thing in here. Right, so like we could throw Unity player in there would be the only other thing, right? Right, we could do this, but I'm not really convinced. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of like dynamic load shit happening. I guess we have to analyze Unity player as well, right? But we could actually like skim these and look for. Yeah, I assume that like load address is relevant, right? If this thing just DL opens in a specific way. Could be 2000 ADA. 2000 ADA. I mean, it's not entirely impossible. There's definitely like stuff in here. But I think that I would assume that like since it's dynamically loaded, there's like more to it than that. Because this guy has, you know, things at 02. Let's see. So this stuff starts at 200. Yeah, it's kind of like in the whole range. So you don't really know, I think. Wait, also, am I crazy that that address is in here somewhere? It was 2000 ADA something, right? It's like over here. ADA something. Right? Is it like not that it could be in here? I guess this is just like extension code, so seems unlikely. Can you look at the xrefs for dat? Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Move E item the fuck. Yeah, so this might be on like initialization. Oh, you know what? This is probably in that like those initializer sections, right? These functions here. So this is like runtime. This is heap allocated memory, maybe? Right? So in this thunk function, he's going to be like like initializing that thing with something he copied from somewhere else or something like that. Right? That's kind of what it looks like. It's kind of what it looks like. No, this is more like he's looking it up. Well, are these different? A70, A70, A70. Unclear. Your audio's fucked? God damn it. Why? Oh, because it's fucking analyzing Unity player. Okay, well, whatever. I do think it's reasonable to assume that this it's his vtable, right? I just think it's fine. So we know that on pre-attack or whatever, we're looking for item inventory pre-attack callers. Right? This is what we're looking for. Show references to this. So this is called from weapon utility get damage container. This is where we were a second ago. So this is like oh. Okay, so this is when we saw this called when the flask was thrown at the guy. It explodes. We were in explode flask, and we ended up here earlier, right? And so the damage container that we initially were applying will hold things like the execute, right? Now it is a little interesting that that execution from the dagger was making like was making like overwriting changes, right? Can we go back to that thing? Joe's dagger. I'm a little bit confused by this actually. So it was in pre-attack here, right? What he was doing was he was changing the damage source and then applying execute. So it'd be interesting if this actually like here he just like fucking hard sets damage effect as well, right? So what if we like look at like item, what's the bonk? There's some like hammer that bonks, item bonker, right? So on here, this is an on-hit effect, which is interesting. Unless item bonker. Yeah, so this guy's doing a random chance there. So that's interesting. They just happen to happen in different spots. They probably can both trigger. Has my fucking CPU cooled down? Yeah, it has. Let's turn the music on. Let me know if it's still fucked. Okay. So we were looking at that pre-attack thing. For item inventory. So there was one place in get damage container. Two places in get damage container, actually. These are the same thing. Then the scary part is that there are all these other guys who they're like it's showing up in the data section, which means that there could be some form of like indirection calling this stuff, but it's unclear. So really just get damage container is really the only place you have to worry about. So can we look for reference to this? Do you have a laptop or a PC? Both. But I don't think that's necessarily what you mean. Okay, so what we're looking for is, I'm streaming from the PC right now. I guess somewhere on here we're looking for if, like debuffs will be calling this. Right, so all of these guys are all of these projectiles and stuff are calling damage container, right? But what about like the debuff, the weapon, the poison debuff? Like how does that, oh, am I spelling debuff wrong? Poison Oh, it's debuff poison. Okay. So we don't really know how these are applied yet. We think that it's like, okay, so there's add stacks, which is interesting. I think my tick, was that where we expected him to do actual damage? I can't remember. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks like it, right? So he, on tick, I assume that this is a function on enemy debuffs, right? So we're going to be iterating our debuffs in enemy. Okay. So we're assuming somewhere that this thing is going to be calling like apply debuffs or something. Is boss, is challenge on enemy, right? Has debuff, debuff tick, right? So we're kind of hoping to see that debuff tick on enemy will iterate all of the debuffs and call my tick on them, right? That's what we're hoping to see here. If so, we've made some good guesses. So here he's iterating the debuffs. Great. And he has vtable 4 here, which is a little bit confusing. Probably this is each element in debuffs, I assume. PSVAR 1. Oh, here he's calling get values here. Then he gets a numerator into local 48, which is PSVAR 6. Here he's enumerating each debuff here from this thing on the stack or into this thing on the stack. One of the two. Here this is probably checking if we succeeded, this CVAR 4 thing. Okay. So then this is like an interesting part where he's actually calling a function. Here he's calling a different function, which is interesting. If this item class is less than 1, so if this is null, no. Yeah, maybe. Then he like removes this thing, probably. So this would be application of the thing, and we don't know what this does. We don't know. We don't know what this is. Which is annoying. This is the confusing part. I would assume that this is my tick, but I have no way of fucking telling that shit. No way of telling that shit. Right? Fuck. So, Rigid, thank you for the prime. Much appreciated. So, how do we tie this back? I mean, it would be, like, maybe, like, the easiest thing to do would be to, like, mod and, like, comment this line out somehow. Well, actually, if you just look at the vtable, yeah, good point. It is in vtable 4. So, PI-var 8. We know that PI-var 8 is a enemy debuff, right? So I guess you're actually not too far off that we actually could probably look at, like, enemy debuff constructor or something. And try to look at how he assigns his vtable. But I think it's, like, not going to be straightforward. Actually, like, maybe. Oh, wait, this actually is, like, not that crazy. We have 4 is tick in here. We see that, right? We see that in this constructor, he knows the type here, and he knows that at the 4th invoke data, it's tick. So maybe in the base class of tick, he calls my tick. So let's keep in our head also, my tick is 6, okay? We're gonna keep that in our heads. And I guess we're gonna look for item-based tick, maybe? Wait. Was it item base? It was enemy debuff, sorry. Enemy debuff tick. Okay. Not that. Wait, where were we a second ago? I'm lost. I'm lost. It was in debuff. In the debuff, he has his... He's assigning to some of these guys. Also, can we look at a debuff poison? Ctor? So does this guy assign? No, he just has add stacks. And... Oh, I guess, like, even then... Not clear. Okay, okay. Who calls this? Who constructs poison? We don't know. Because it is indirect. Okay. We're looking for somebody who calls, like, this vtable 6 somewhere on tick. So we're looking on, like, enemy debuff. I guess get ticks is another option here. Depending on what this is supposed to return. Looks like this returns how many times it ticked. Is done is like ticks left. Refresh. No. No, it would have to be in this tick. But then like this tick is not doing anything. So maybe I don't understand how like the virtual dispatch works. So maybe the base class stuff gets overwritten. Right? So maybe this tick gets called from somewhere else. Where did we see that vtable 4? Where was that? I forget. Maybe it's in the history somewhere. Would have been before this, Debuff poison. It would have been before this even. This was projectile stuff. We were skimming through projectiles for some fucking reason. Because we're looking for usages of get damage container. Right. Right. We were looking for usages of get damage container. And then somewhere we were like, does this thing get called on debuff application? That's where we were. And then did we ever get to debuff application at all? We were saying that like we have debuffs in here, right? And we were saying that like on enemy, we were looking for enemy iterating debuffs, right? That's what we were looking for. So we were looking for like debuff function on enemy. And there was one that was like, it was debuff tick. I remember now. I remember. It was debuff tick. Okay, and we were saying like, does this guy access the my tick function somehow? I believe is where we were, right? And we were like, up here somewhere is, it looked like there was a lot of stuff about like removal and shit. But then we were looking at this vtable 4 and trying to figure out, well, what was that? And we believe that vtable 4 was tick, right? That's how we got here. That's how we got here. And then this guy is also talking about vtable 8. Enemy debuff. So unfortunately, these things aren't necessarily in order. So I want to go back to looking at. Okay, so this guy calls vtable 4, vtable 8. Anything else? Let's see, it's vtable. And then 8 is on, like, removal. Maybe. It was also on, like, pivar 8, which kind of sounds like it might be himself. That's not clear. Nah, probably not. pivar comes from enemy debuffs, right? We're pretty confident. Okay. So I want to go back to the enemy debuff vtable. Enemy debuff. Enemy debuff. Is it this? No, this is on the hash map. I'm confused. I'm confused. Can we go back to the header maybe? Where was that other thing we're looking at? Like in like poison, debuff, poison, constructor. Was it here where we saw him looking at this class vtable, which was of type, oh, implementations debuff poison. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Right, okay. I see. So then there's also this class constructor here. Okay. Which maybe is like pulling some of the like class constructor. The class comes from here. Which it can't resolve, right? He like can't, he is unclear on this. Yeah, he doesn't know how to resolve that yet. It's red. It's red. So this class is where the vtable lies with this guy. And are all of these like enemy debuffs, implementations, vtable? I assume that these all have like the same layout, right? Yeah, these are all the same. I guess it also depends on what the type is that that guy was indexing in that like apply debuff thing, right? Class vtable, like is vtable here an array of what? Vtable 4 is a vtable of virtual invoke datas. Yeah. So he has to be calling tick. It's just surprising to me that we don't see evidence of tick calling into my tick anywhere. That's kind of the part that I find confusing. Is that like we don't see like debuff poison tick. Hello? Right, he doesn't even have an implementation of debuff poison tick. And then if we look at like enemy debuffs, is there like item base? So vtable, of course, they have the same. Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to confirm. I think that's reasonable. Okay. So there is this like enemy debuff thing that has tick. This is all in enemy debuffs. And this is enemy debuff singular. Right? So in here, we don't have any evidence that this is doing anything that interesting here, right? Which is confusing. Like, we don't see any tie back to my tick ever. And I don't like that. I don't like that. Might have a default implementation which you can have virtual and abstract which one gets requested by default. Yeah, I agree, but I would think that the tick function, like, if we only see evidence of the external loop calling tick, we need to find who is calling, like, self.mytick. You know what I mean? And, like, I don't see that anywhere. Like, I would think that at the very least, this tick function would be the one who's calling, like, my implementation dot my tick. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I wonder if we can go to that vtable usage where we see that like vtable 4. Can we find references to this? This is to IPP class vtable. That's annoying. Yeah, that's not going to be helpful. That is not going to be helpful. Oh, this is also... Yeah, okay. Annoying. Annoying, annoying, annoying. Can you retype it? Yeah, but I don't think that would help. I don't think that would help. What is... Did we already check what number 8 was? 8 is on remove... Get debuff type? Sure. So this does at least make sense to some extent, right? On remove, he is putting the type of the item to the type of the debuff to remove into the remove vector. So like I think that our analysis of what is happening at this level is like correct, right? On enemy, debuff tick, he calls tick on debuff, which doesn't do anything interesting. And then he checks if it's like ticked too many times. It could be that my tick is called from somewhere else. That's actually not like insane. Can we look for usages of debuffs here? This is resolving correctly. So maybe there's some other function where enemy looks at his own debuffs and calls vtable 6 on those. Maybe. Btrfs forced me to reinstall my OS today. Guess why? It like corrupted itself and you had no recovery. That's what happened when I used Btrfs like 10 years ago. Clear all defaults. I guess we'll wait for this finish. Holy shit, he's got some time running. Clear all debuffs. Add debuff implementation. Clear, clear, clear. Release echo. Add debuff impl. Find target. Q clear. Debuff tick we already looked at. Get debuff color. That's crazy. Enemy movement find exposition. Might look at debuffs for like knockback or something. Set velocity. Update debuffs is maybe interesting. So he goes over each enemy, looks, or maybe he looks at this specific enemy, target of interest prefab. So he might look at these debuffs here, and does he call anything on it? He calls get item PSVR4, and that is looking for, oh wait, this is like specifically looking for poison, which is interesting. Okay. Get damage for HP. Ooh, okay. So he is looking at blood mark. here. Interesting. Poison ratio, HP bar. Oh, sure. So this is for like, oh, I see. This is for showing on the HP bar, it like shows how much how much poison damage is going to happen and how much blood mark damage is going to happen. So that's probably what's happening here. That's probably what's happening here. Enemy damage. He iterates the debuffs here. PS var 4 contains key. So if this thing contains key, then he looks at echo damage, which I think is like some type that like doubles up your damage or something sometimes. Otherwise, what the fuck? Oh, sure. So he's looking for echo specifically in this scenario to see if he should double up. Sure. So this isn't the one. Has debuff. This was the echo damage thing. Remove debuff. Enemy constructor. Okay. It does feel like update debuffs or tick debuffs does feel like the right place. Or yeah, debuff tick. Yeah, it really feels like those are the right spots. So I guess we could make an assumption that the tick implementation on enemy debuff does eventually get into my tick. It just bothers me that we can't find it. That's really the only thing. But I guess there's no reason to like assume that it's not getting called. I wanted to see the whole path so that I could tie back where the damage container came from. Right? Because I wanted to know. What I wanted to know was like, does this damage container. I guess technically the damage container is inside, so I guess we're kind of chilling. I want to know if this thing can apply, like execute though. We should totally ban people come in and assume they can ask you. Or yeah, what assholes? How are you? I'm good. How are you? So like damage source comes from poison damage source. So here he's constructing what looks like to be a new damage container from scratch, right? And it doesn't look to me like this damage container holds anything about item application, right? It looks like it's pulling stat C from the player, which is maybe the damage. E stat 0, 1, 2. Oh, C is what, 12? A 11, 12, 13. 13. So 13 times 2 is 26. 26 lines down. Maybe duration? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A, B, C. Yeah, so it's pulling the damage multiplier. But is that kind of it? It looks kind of like it, right? So the answer here is likely that poison does not apply item effects, right? Because when we saw like the item effect from execute get applied, it was like he iterated over the item inventory in weapon utility get damage container or something, right? And that's not being called here. So it seems unlikely. What the hell is line 47? Yeah, wait, what the fuck? Oh, sure. So I think that they're saying that if my damage multiplier is less than 1, you are set at doing a minimum of 1 damage per stack. This is actually looking like it answers another question too. I was wondering also if each stack of poison applies independently, but it looks kind of like it doesn't, right? Um, I notice when when I'm playing the game that the tick rate of poison is like approximately 1 tick per second. It would be interesting for us to know if you can increase that at all, which means that we would need to find out who calls my tick, which we guess would assume is on tick, right? We assume that tick is calling into my tick somehow. But I would love to know the tick rate of that thing. So this was in enemy. Class enemy. Somewhere. Right, we're assuming it was like debuff tick, right? So can we see where that's called? I want to know if there's like some sort of timer attached to that in some way. And if it's like cooldown. So I think the answer to this is, as far as I can tell, no. And we'll write down that debuff poison my tick constructs a new damage container but does not call weapon utility. What was it? It was like weapon utility get damage container. Get damage container, right? Yeah. This does not call this guy. Who is where we saw this is where we see execute from Joe's dagger applied from pre-attack. Note that bonk is applied from proc-on-hit effects, which we are assuming is related, but have not confirmed. Right. Vampirism obviously works with poison, but maybe it's not works not as on hit. You're saying that when you're playing the game, it's very clear to you that poison heals you, right? You're saying, and I think I agree with that. That's kind of what I would observe as well. So that's interesting. That is interesting. So this, at least, yeah, the build that I wanted to do was to like crank Joe's daggers. But I guess I do want to check, like, we saw that thing that had like bonk as a damage effect. So okay, none of these are like lifesteal. But yeah, where would lifesteal be? It'd be like player health, right? Class player health. I assume has like heal or something, right? Heal, right? We have player health heal. We can already see just by looking at these function signatures that like on damage takes a player health, which is like on damage. But oh, these are maybe on me though. Yeah, can we look at like, okay, let's go back to player health. Health. It was like heal or something. And it was just, I think it was just called heal. So who calls this? Who calls this? Healing zones, of course. Item Demon Blade on enemy damaged. Okay, right. So we'll keep that one in mind. On enemy damaged. We have proc-on-hit effects on the item Glove's Blood. Okay, so I assume that this one would not count. Apply Lifesteal is maybe another interesting one, right? So can we find reference to this? I guess let's keep scrolling though through the rest and update max values. Okay, cool. So let's like apply Lifesteal as the other one. Did I fuck this up? References? Find references to this. This is to heal. These are both heal. I want references to apply lifesteal. Am I fucking mental? References. Find references. Maybe I just didn't click the right thing. Very cool. Only through indirection. Okay, so maybe there's another. Ooh. Okay, that's annoying. That is. Oh. Wait, I guess we can figure out whose type info is associated with this, though. I guess we know that we have player health type info somewhere, right? Which would be related. Why is this thing fucking frozen? Cancel. Player health. Health. Like, we're looking for some sort of player health type info here. Or like a player health vtable. Maybe. Yeah, where have we found like type info before? Oh my god, dude. Fucking this stupid search box like is going fucking crazy if I type like one character because it's like I will scan everything for that one character. Just wait till I fucking press enter, you dumb fuck. Or like wait till like there's like some time between characters. There we go. Why are there so few type infos in this thing? Didn't we see like a lot of these like references to type info at some point? Maybe it was lowercase info? I'm confused. I feel like we saw a lot of these earlier, no? Right, like right here. Player health type info. Hello? Fine, I guess I'll just find references to this. And we're looking for like who would call apply lifesteal on this, which is not trivial because this shit's everywhere. Can we like look at the type here? Like, why is this not showing up in this? Like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, because it was over here. I'm a dumbass. It was over here. That's why. That's why. How come none of this looks like player info type info? Like, it's this. Oh, it is this thing. Okay, I see. I see. Oh, there's a heal on this thing? Is there action? Is there some sort of action lifesteal proc? So we might be able to get something here if we look for fields of a lifesteal proc. We can assume that those are tied together somehow. I think that's a reasonable assumption. These actions are like delayed, like stored function pointers. Like I think they're analogous to like lambdas in C++ or closures. So we're maybe looking for a usage where somebody looks for that lifesteal proc and calls it. So we have bloody cleaver cleanup. We have try lifesteal hit, which is interesting. So this is player health, try lifesteal hit is like one interesting piece. Then there's like some items that will trigger these things. A lot of these are item bloody cleaver, almost all of them, except for player health, try lifesteal hit. So I think this is the interesting piece. References. On enemy damaged. So every time an enemy is damaged, this thing is called. Right, so I'm going to assume I would assume, based off of what we've observed, is that the poison triggers on enemy damaged. On enemy damaged is a thing that gets attached to every enemy and calls back to this thing, right? So look for like a on enemy damage, maybe. Enemy damaged, maybe. Enemy damaged. So, maybe like class enemy has an action associated with damage. A damage, right? So I would bet that we would find that maybe player health registers himself as an action with a damage. And a damage is called every time that any damage is taken. That's what I would guess. So can we prove that? If we look for, so this is a enemy data type. I feel like we like accidentally fucked something up in this view because it's like definitely not showing everything. Oh, we're in the wrong fucking browser. That's why. That explains a lot. It's this one. Enemy damage. Or, sorry, enemy. We're looking for... can we go back to the header here? A damage. So this is enemies, enemy static fields. All right, so this guy, if we look for usages of this damage thing, we're hoping to see that like we register ourselves as like player health with this thing. I would assume. It's like a really big assumption, but maybe. There's so many fucking windows, dude. Oh my god. This one. Right, so like here, challenge modifier, no damage to enemies hit. Here, he is attaching... it's unclear. Yeah, right. I mean, it seemed... Whoa, 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 whoa. Am I looking at the wrong thing? Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're wrong. We're seeing that on initialization, Joe's dagger is checking damage on enemy. And he is saying, hey, you have this. What is this? This is on init though. So this doesn't make sense. He's looking at. Really, okay, PAVAR here is enemies, enemy, static field. So people that want to get notified when any enemy is hit? Is that correct? Is that correct? Public static A damage, yeah. It does kind of feel like... I guess we should see who triggers A damage is probably like the more interesting thing here. I'm confused. This is a action that takes in an enemy and a damage container. So I would assume that maybe like each enemy. I mean, we should check that, right? Can we just look at like enemy damage or something? Like who fucking attacks this guy? Right, if we just look at like enemy damage here, does he fucking queue up that A damage thing? Because if he does, then maybe Joe's dagger does apply on poison. Because we saw that poison calls some sort of damage box. It might just be kind of more convoluted than I initially guessed. So we're looking for, in one of these views, enemy damage. So here he's got the damage container, which he would have to pass in to a damage in here somewhere. Okay, yeah. Okay, whoop, fuck, I closed too many times, but we do see it there, right? We do see here that he calls into some, some function related to a damage with himself and the damage container, right? So this is pretty damning, right? That's pretty damning that everybody who registers with a damage on the enemy is going to get these things. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe poison does trigger Joe's dagger, right? Because we go back to Joe's dagger. It was Joe's dagger in it, right? Here we see him registering with a damage. Here, right? It's here. This is so strange. So here it looks like he's probably taking the initial. Yeah, here he's combining what was there before with this thing on enemy damage, right? Yeah. So he's attaching Joe's dagger on enemy damage to every enemy damage taken. So then the only question is does the poison make it back here, right? Because I assume item Joe's dagger on enemy damage is where we increment like the counter. It does, the roll time is limited though. which is a little concerning. So you can't just get like a billion stacks, which is what I was kind of hoping to be able to do. But time here is related. Okay, so I'm a liar. JK is yes. uh, Wait, I'm confused. Because the way that it is worded in the Joe's Dagger thing, it's that each execute permanently increases your damage by 1% for the run. So we did see execute only happens on pre-attack, right? So why would it be then that on damage taken, we care? This only updates the roll cooldown? He says on enemy damage taken, we look at the time of this thing. It's pointer to type info and all stack members are on type info object. Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Sorry, I missed your question before where it was like, why is it pointer A damage if A damage is static? Yeah, I missed that. It's like in static memory, there is a point. There's this like thing that is shared between all instances of enemy, and that those like static variables are held in the type info. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, so yeah, then this is only about roll time. And if this guy is a boss, he's gonna use like, he's gonna proc damage on this guy, I guess. He's actually not doing the damage. He's only checking if the damage was relevant for stat tracking, probably. Well, he does check the roll time. So he's checking if the damage effect was applied here. So if the damage effect was me, then that means that I triggered. Okay, so this is still kind of true. For Joe's Dagger. But the lifesteal stuff, I think we're still on the right track here. Where on hit effect or like on enemy damage is like triggered for poison, right? It's just that this is not how Joe's Dagger calculates whether or not he triggers, right? That's part of the like pre-attack shit. But lifesteal is a post-attack shit, right? So he's happening in response to this thing, right? If we go back to player health, was it player health constructor or player health init where he registered himself as a damage? Right, if we were looking for a damage usages. Some of these were on player health, right? I think. No? Hello? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, here, it was just slow. Okay, so we were looking for some form of player health thing in here. Here. Right, so in the player health constructor. Fuck, lost it. Was it this one? No, we lost it. Player health constructor here. He is combining the existing action with on enemy damaged on player health here. So we should just be able to go to player health on enemy damage, and if that is in response, then it makes sense. Player health on enemy damaged. So does this guy do try lifesteal hit, right? So here he's probably checking the lifesteal percentage chance, right? This X11 is almost certainly lifesteal. And then he's checking, you know, compared to a random number, let me grab the next random number out of this thing and let me check if it is less than the health minus some offset minus floor F. Right, so he's, yeah, sure. He is, what the fuck is this? X minus the floor of X, so like the decimal place plus the not decimal, plus the, whoa. I have so many questions. So this is the decimal component plus the integer component. I don't know why you would do it like that, but sure. So he's just checking if the lifesteal hits. Yeah, okay. So I think that we're right. Lifesteal does apply on poison hit. Joe's dagger does not. So it seems like it's kind of item specific, and this doesn't really tell us about the magic lamp. Right? Does that mean that you can have one damage, or is it being wrapped in a damage container? I think that each damage container can only have one type of damage, right? So if we are applying an execute, it overwrites the type of damage that it was before, because I think that like from the execute's perspective, it's like probably just like anything else didn't fucking matter. So you can't proc like an execute and a bonk. I think that we are still unclear on if we can hit like fire and bonk. I would assume that like the fire is like a damage source, right? If you think about like the fire boots, probably what's happening is it's spawning fire on the ground, and each fire is applying a damage container to the enemy, right? And I think that each damage container has its own effect, which means that they would be able to hit independently. I think it's just that one attack might not be able to proc multiple, right? Maybe. Unclear. It would also depend on like how things react, right? So maybe we can look at like lightning gloves, right? Those happen every once in a while. Or maybe there's the lightning orb is a better one. Right? So this lightning orb has a 25% on hit to summon lightning that can stun enemies. You can tell kind of based off that wording that this sounds kind of like an on enemy damage thing, but we can check now, right? Lightning orb. So like, can we look at like the constructor of this thing? And does he reference like a damage at all? No, but we can maybe look at like what he has. He's a pre-attack who does nothing. Okay, proc-on-hit effects. Okay, so proc-on-hit effects is completely different than the dagger workflow, right? The dagger workflow was pre-attack, we fucking clobber the damage container. We haven't found proc-on-hit effects yet. So let's try to figure out where this is called from. Right, we're going to assume that proc-on-hit effects calls this thing, and he's the one who tries to how do I say this? Like check the percentage chance or whatever and like apply a new damage container. I'm just gonna make that assumption right now. We can do a quick check here. He has a damage container. He asks if he can reuse them. If he can, then he calls lightning strike on enemy with this damage container, probably. Maybe not. PA var 3 is not equal to 0. Where is this used? Here. Then he... this is really unclear. Because of this like thunk function shit. But it seems kind of like he's applying it, maybe. Yeah, okay. So we want to figure out who calls proc on hit effects. I want to look at how was that Joe's dagger on init, was it? Or on construction? It's on init where he actually ties himself. Yeah, so let's go back to the lightning orb now. Lightning orb on init. Nothing. Interesting. On init or amount changed. He is just doing his own shit? Does someone not have to hit call like tie proc-on-hit effect somewhere? Oh, he calls item base on this thing. Item base constructor might register some stuff. No, like proc-on-hit effects. Not global because it's changed with the user, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I would assume fire is one global damage container, either is applied or not. Yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's either way, right? It could either be that each ring of fire on the ground applies its own damage, or they all attach to some like global fire effect that get triggered at some like tick rate on the enemy or something. Both of those are possible. Okay, so I don't really understand yet how this like lightning orb thing is tied together. Can we like look for references to the type info here? Create item here. Right. On create item, one of the item types is the lightning orb. So e item enum e item. One of these things is lightning orb. So reference line 428. 462 minus 428 is 34 over 2 is 16. And then hexadecimal would be like hex 10. So here we're looking for here, lightning orb. I was off by 1. Who just calls the constructor, which is not incredibly helpful. Because we've kind of already looked at this, I think. Does this guy attach extra information after all of this like switch shit? This is all within the switch. Then he returns this thing as an item base. So it's possible that after we create item, we register that item as a generic with whoever needs it. Get dummy item, probably not that one. It's probably here, right? So we like add this to our list of items. Then we have a item added, which could be related, right? This could signal a bunch of other stuff. Who could tie us back to on proc hit effects, maybe, right? So we create the item, we signal everyone, hey, we have a new item, here you go, baby. And then maybe like whoever references this thing goes, oh, you have a new item? Let me attach that to on proc hit effects or whatever. This is on destroy. Healing zone, awake, unlockables, stat tracking, item HUD, healing zone, unlockables, achievements. None of this really feels like what I'm looking for. I mean, we could be looking at the base type info if we're looking for someone to register that thing. Item base type info. Maybe we look for this guy. What are we building? We are trying to reverse engineer megabonk a little bit to get a feel for what is a good build and what is a bad build. So we're trying to understand like how poison and stuff like affect things, you know, that type of shit. On destroy, awake, on destroy. Yeah, I'm not sure where this like on proc event comes from. Wait, what was it? It was like item, lightning orb, lightning orb, proc on hit effects. We have still not managed to find, right? But maybe we could look for like item base, proc on hit effects. That doesn't exist. So these all come from like specific item implementations, right? And they're all through indirection. Can we go back to like, so where is this? So if we look at like item anvil, constructor maybe, does he apply like proc on hit effects? Has to come from somewhere here, right? Has to. He has to attach his vtable. So he calls system object constructor with this. And does he like attach to some data address? Here. He checks if system collections generic dictionary from stat to stat modifier container doesn't really sound right. We're kind of looking, well, let's go back to lightning orb. I would assume, it feels like it has to be on construction or in it. Has to be like where he registers his vtable with the system. Here, class. Class is items, pickups, e item type info, which is system enum. So that's not really what I'm looking for. I don't think. Is this Ghidra? Yeah. Yep. Item inventory ref. This is a reference to my item inventory, which doesn't really feel like what I'm looking for. What is yep DC? Damage container. Sure, that's not what we're looking really looking for either. Actors damage container constructor. Doesn't really feel right either. I'm looking for, I built a lightning orb, and I want to say on proc hit effects, or proc on hit effects, how does that get attached? That's what we're looking for. I have to remind myself. Which feels like it could be on like enemy construction. He could attach that thing. That's not crazy. But then we would have expected it to be attached to a damage. Right? What were we looking at before for healing? We were looking at like player health. And we had, when did we see this like this a damage shit? Oh, it was on enemy damaged, right? No. It was damage. This thing was registered in his constructor, right? That's what we saw. We saw like a damage was registered with on enemy damage, right? So here it makes sense. Player health constructor registers himself as something that wants to notice when an enemy is damaged. Perfect. That is not what we see with item, right? I want to look at like item base here. Maybe there's like pre-attack proc on hit effects with the damage container. Like it feels like it has to be in the same path as pre-attack, maybe? So where do we see pre-attack called? Like maybe it's just like a little bit after that. The name before $sign is an object name? Yeah, I think so. That's my understanding. So where did we see this? It was weapon utils create damage modifier or something, right? Weapon util utility. It was get damage container. Yeah. So in get damage container, he was calling pre-attack here. But then eventually he has to apply the attack, right? So where was this called from? I guess this was like per item. Right? So like on projectile hit enemy, we like get this damage container which will have called pre-attack on all of these guys, on all of these items. And then he is going to call damage from other player with the damage container. And then he will call projectile done. So it could be either of these paths. I would guess projectile done right now. That's kind of where I'm imagining. Right, so this guy, he goes weapon attack projectile done. And no, I mean this isn't looking too promising in terms of running the proc-on-hit effect. Kind of feels like this is more about cleanup than anything. Just kind of like hand wavy looking at it. Just feels that way. So that makes me want to look at damage from other player here. You know, like post damage isn't crazy, right? He's iterating over my items and calling post damage on each of them. Okay. So what is he is this is item inventory post damage. So then he's going over each item base many times in here and calling like this is fucked, right? Like just some offset in here. So this could very easily be proc-on-hit effects, one of these things, right? Very easily. This is like a field getter, probably feels like. Does anything look like a function call in here? Okay, so here's like, give me this item base. Let me get this item. Let me check this value on that thing. For each guy, we don't know what that is yet. Then he goes over all of my items again, I think. Then he's getting the value of this guy into local 68 and calling dispose on them if what? Whoa. Oh, if it's 0, then he deletes it. So he's doing like cleanup on items if they've been removed. Kind of here. And then this here, though, he's calling a function. Here he's calling a function that who fucking knows, dude. We can kind of go by the signature though, right? His input is the item, a damage container, and a pointer to an 8-byte variable. Right? So if we thought it was proc-on-hit effects, it does not look like that, right? It looks like it's some. Okay, so can we go to item base here? Oh, unless this is the mod info though. We see a lot of method info going into things, so it could be that. Ah, fuck me. We know it's not this. It's some function on this guy though, right? It has to be. And so the only functions that take damage container on item base are these two functions. So it seems very likely. I would like to check if damage container proc-on-hit effects takes two parameters from C++'s or from this perspective. Because I don't believe that it is pre-attack. We've already run that shit. So it makes me think it's like that mod info kind of like trailing parameter that we see a lot. Yeah. Right, so method info, if this is an 8-byte structure, then we're like very confident. It's way more than 8 bytes. So who fucking knows? But this guy does take two parameters. 3, I guess, right? So it seems pretty likely to me that that's what's happening, is that this is called on wherever the fuck we just were. On post damage. So post damage was called by damage from other player or damage from player weapon, right? So that sounds a lot like we do not apply proc-on-hit effects from poison, which is a debuff, right? So this was debuff poison. We saw that on my tick, he constructs a damage player. Oh, but it is from other player. So maybe it's true. Maybe it does. Because if we call damage from other player, then that should call post damage here. Is there some like guard on this thing? If my player, if my player is null, don't do this. And then check my inventory. PA var 1 is me, so we're checking my inventory. Why are we looking at this at all? Am I fucking stupid? What the fuck am I looking at? Oh, because he has to use, sorry, of course, because he has to use his item inventory to call item inventory, of course. So we go into item inventory post damage, and we iterate all of our items, and we check if any of them want to do their thing. So that makes me think that it does. As far as I can tell, no for Joe's Tagger, yes for everything else. That's what it looks like, right? So it's Joe's dagger is applied by pre-attack, which is not called by debuffs. Poison constructs a damage container and calls damage from player other. This iterates item inventory and calls post damage on item inventory, which calls proc-on-hit effects. Lifesteal, we think, also is triggered by poison. So this is extremely interesting to me, because the build that I wanted to do was a duration stack poison build where I work with Joe's dagger. But now we know that Joe's dagger is like unique in that it won't trigger. But like I think that we saw like the bonk thing does trigger big bonk. Right? So if we look at bonker, this guy, because he goes through proc-on-hit effects, will trigger with 20 times the poison damage, right? Because this is taking in the damage container that triggered this damage, which is the poison. Yes, and we know poison is applying, gets affected by like my damage as well. So that's good. Cool. Cool. How exciting. Oh, sick. So you could run. The only thing that we're not clear on this build is there, like, how often do things trigger? Right? I don't think we've answered that question yet. Is how often do things trigger? So we want to look at, we know that there was like that tick call in enemy debuff tick, right? We know that existed. Right? And so the question is who calls this and how often? Does this guy like kind of filter himself based off some sort of time? And is there any like kind of interesting timers in here? Because I know we've seen timers now. We see next verify time, next teleport time. We see debuff counts, last teleport time is dying. Flashing interval, ready to flash time, stop flash time, blah, 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 blah. I've never seen this echo damage thing, by the way. I think I just don't have an item. I don't think I've unlocked everything yet. So that's kind of something that I should think about, is echoes seem pretty interesting. If I can get like echoes on long-term damage. Do I see anything on here that looks like a timer for debuffs? No, not particularly. Okay, so let's just go look for calls to this thing then. References to this thing. Fixed update. Okay. So he iterates over all enemies and calls debuff tick here. From next debuff tick time, debuff cooldown seconds. Okay. Debuff cooldown seconds. Debuff ticks per second? Is that modifiable at all? Question, now that you have function stakes, you could build wraparound game assembly so and trace a play run and check things. Yeah, I think that would be kind of fun. I was also thinking, like, if we wanted to get really fucking crazy with it, you could maybe, like, build a utility that, like, tests builds for you, right? Yeah, okay. So you're limited to 2 debuff ticks per second, and these things are like multiplied by their stack value. So this lines up with what I see in game, right? Where I see these things trigger like every once in a while. Like 2 times a second, I guess feels about right. I was gonna say 1 time a second, but 2 times a second actually sounds more correct now that I'm seeing the number. So in reality, the poison damage build doesn't work if you're trying to really crank out hits, right? Because the maximum that you can proc is 2 times per second per enemy, which is like not at all good compared to maybe like the proc rate of if you had something like there's a flaming puddle thing, flaming boots, flame walker. So this thing, as you're walking around, will leave an instance of like burn damage on the ground. And so I wonder if like you can cut something movement based might be better, right? So if you have like a bunch of these guys kind of spaced around really close together, maybe this procs a little bit better, right? Than the poison, which is limited to 2 ticks per second. Where if you can just generate like tons of these things overlapping very small, I wonder if there's something interesting there, like if there's like an on enter on the Flame Walker. That'd be kind of interesting. How does Flame Walker apply its damage? Flame Walker, maybe all lowercase. Flame Walker. No, it's maybe Flame Walker. Flame Walker. I guess maybe we look for create item. And we look for the enum tag that is associated with this guy. So Flame Walker is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, which is B, 0xB. Hello? Am I stupid? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know how I was off by 2. That's Demon Blade. Oh, I'm sorry. This is fucking items. I want weapons. So create weapon. Weapon. I don't think it's a projectile. So projectile base is like E weapon, laser beam attack, rocket, projectile arrow, maybe like an aura? Aura attacks? Fire? Projectile fire field? Is that what it is? Is that really what it is? Fire field? No, fire field is an item. Burn? Am I crazy? Why can't I find this thing? Weapon passives? Weapon passive factory, weapon utility, weapon inventory, weapon base, projectile. This is weapons fire field, not items fire field. Feels right. Feels right. Collision cooldown on each of these guys. Get enemies in radius. Feels kind of right. So this thing has like a thing that spawns and is alive for some amount of time with a spawn radius. And I assume that like we check our size field and grow this thing somewhere. So we're looking for like my player somewhere. Next check damage time is the interesting thing here. Has a rate limit of the number of times it can apply. Yeah, but it might be rate limit per item, like per spawn. You know what I mean? Because this thing is going to have many instances of this thing that have been spat out. Right? Is it faster than poison ticks? That's a good question. What's my megabonk high score? Like 150,000? Not very high. Not very high. Isn't burn a debuff? Yeah, so I think that I'm thinking about like the initial attack though, right? right? So like you're kind of like leaving these like puddles all over the ground, and when you get your attack speed really high up, they kind of like overlap really tightly, right? So what I want to know is like if somebody's walking through these, like are they procking all of them as they walk through? That's kind of what I was looking for. Because then I think it does also apply a burn debuff afterwards that will probably. So I think there's like 3 instances of damage on this, right? There's like it hit me because I stepped in, right? It's like I actually like got hit by the thing. Then I'm like standing in the thing here, and it's like wait for next damage time, right? I assume. So it's gonna like tick me while I'm standing in that thing every once in a while. I assume. And then there's the burn that it applies that will apply at like another rate after. That would be my assumption here. Uh oh, collision cooldown, my bad. Come on. Come on. I'm a computer science student at university. What do you recommend for me to get better at coding? My thing is just code. I just code. Point 0.4, right? So this is a little bit faster than Poison, but still pretty slow. Still pretty slow, assuming that this is, this is the fire field constructor. And I assume that these things are spawned like lots of times, right? We want like fire field type info maybe. No, there's no. Confusing. So there's weapons fire fields and then projectile fire field. When's this guy called? Great. Maybe this guy calls fixed update. It could be that each of these guys kind of tie themselves back to who spawned them. Right? So like each of these projectiles don't do shit. They have try in it here. Who calls this? Indirection. Fuck me. Try in it. Who's responsible for this? A lot of people. A lot of people. Items, pickups, weapons. No, this is an item. Like, what? Hold on. What about, like, what's another item? Poison, flask. This thing is, like, only a projectile? Poison. There's item poison. What is, like, the weapon? The weapon. I guess maybe we have, like, a weapon that is, like, just tagged by stat? Like, we have, like, enum E weapon here, and maybe, like, this is just kind of used to spawn projectiles, like, kind of directly. Like, because this is, like, we have, like, weapon to weapon data. And maybe this is who, like, spawns projectiles? You know what I mean? You know, like get spawn projectile range, right? Like get spawn. Feels like. Fuck. Everything's in directions only. I guess maybe they just access spawn projectile range directly. Wrong one. This one maybe? Yeah, like maybe we just like projectile speed and somebody will like use this somewhere. Surely, right? Surely. Surely somebody will use projectile speed somewhere and that can tell us who spawns projectiles and we can try to figure out how that fucking ties back to the Flamewalker. Maybe. There we go. He found it. So this is on weapon data toString. Not helpful. What about this one? Weapon data init. So this is just... He is going, let me look for base stats on this thing. So everything gets these things set to 1 by default. Then this guy calls on weapon data init. He adds projectile speed. He sets my projectile speed. PS4 3 is an estat float dictionary. So he's saying, let me add to this dictionary my projectile speed at index 12. I think. Is estat projectile speed? Yeah. That's probably right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I was 11. I was off by 1. 10, 11. Yeah, B is 11. So something like that. So that doesn't really help me. That does not help me very much. Because these are only, I guess, used initially. So I guess we want to look for more, like, who is using this. Who is using this dictionary of stats to float? Because he's probably looking up the projectile speed from this map somewhere at some point. Probably. Weapon utility, get duration, get crit chance, get weapon damage. Sure, so like get duration must be used when we're making this when we're making the fire thing, right? Projectile base get duration does this. Who's called from projectile fire field. Try init, fuck. Which we don't have. God damn it. Holy shit, it's 4:30. I'm going to stop doing this now. It's late. I'm hungry. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys had fun. I had fun. If you liked what you saw, we stream most days 12:34 Pacific time. I probably won't do this again tomorrow. I probably won't. I think we'll go back to we need to finish our debug stuff, then we need to get back into window manager stuff. But this has been a fun little aside. We learned something. Poison damage triggers some things, but not everything. I got some chicken katsu. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. So I am going to go. YouTube, peace out, and Twitch, let's find someone to read.